All right, so before we start modeling, I just want to stress the importance of finding good reference images. And although it can be time consuming, it's really important to have good reference images. So don't be afraid to spend time looking for the best reference images up front. They're really just going to benefit you in the whole modeling process. We can begin modeling our sofa now. So I'm going to go to the front view, I'm going to turn off the grid, and we're going to start with the base of this sofa here. So we can still select these reference planes, and it would be better if we could freeze them so they didn't get in the way if we were trying to model, and it would just be better if they couldn't be selected, so we can actually freeze them. So I've got the reference plane selected, and I've right clicked and I'm going to go freeze selection, and you'll notice that it's turned grey, which isn't ideal because we need to see that image on the plane. So what we can do is unfreeze that, select it again, so we've got the plane selected, and under display we can see show frozen in grey is ticked on. If we turn that off, and now if we right click and freeze, our plane is no longer selectable and we can see the image on it. And if you ever want to unfreeze it, you just right click and unfreeze all, and it will unfreeze everything in our scene. Now we can do the same with our reference box. We can turn frozen in grey off, and then if we freeze it, it's going to be there, but it's kind of obscuring our reference image, so there is a way around that. So let's just unfreeze it for the moment. We're going to need to freeze our reference plane. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to press M to open up our material editor. And again, I'm just going to create a standard material, and I'm going to apply that to our box using assign to selection. I'm just going to press Alt X in the viewport so we can see what's going on, and I'm going to turn on wire, and you'll see now we can see just the wireframe of our reference box, but we don't really want to see the triangles as well. So to hide them triangles, we can just change this opacity to 0, and you can right click on any spinner anywhere in 3ds Max and it will take it to its lowest value. So I've right clicked on opacity and it's gone to 0, and now we can just see our wireframe. So now if I select it, I'm going to change the color to grey, and then I'm going to freeze that selection. So now we have a reference box with the mass of our sofa, and it's unselectable, so we can kind of build over it, but it's just nice to have this volume reference. So we can close the material editor now, and in the front view I'm going to go to create box, and I'm just going to click and drag, and we can see we've got our first part of the sofa. And I'm just going to change this height so it reaches the back of our sofa. It doesn't have to be completely accurate, we're just roughing out the model now. So back in the front view, I'm just going to hold shift and drag that in the X, and I'm going to choose copy, and we can change the width here to eyeball our next part of the base. And another way to create a copy is Control V, and that's going to clone our object. So there's 3 clone options, and copy will make a completely separate clone of the original, so if you modify it, it will have no effect on the original. And instance means if we create an instance and change the new one, it will change the old one, and vice versa. If we change the old one, it will update the new one. And then reference is the same as instance, but you can add modifiers unique to that object. Now, I only really ever use copy and instance. I don't use reference that much. So again, let's select copy, and it's created a copy in exactly the same space as our original. And let's make that wider again. I'm going to hit Control V again, this time make another copy, and I'm going to change the length. I'm going to keep the bottom lined up, but just press Alt X to make it X-ray. I want the top of the armrest to line up with our reference box. So something like that will work, and we'll just change the width. Now we can press T on the keyboard to go to the top view, and we can see what we've got. And we can see that we have our sofa, and obviously we want this one to come out all the way to here, and our armrest is here. So what I'm going to do is rotate this, and we've still got angle snaps on, and holding shift we can rotate and make that a copy. And just looking at our reference here, we can see that the arm goes all the way to the back of the sofa, and then the new one starts on the back, so it starts here. So we can line this up. We could snap it using the snaps toggle, but I just find when you're modeling something like this and it's quite soft, you don't really want everything snapping. It can be a dead giveaway in 3D. So I do like to just eyeball it to give it a bit of a more natural feel. And I'm just going to change that so they meet up, and let's do the same again, holding shift, just click and drag that across, make it a copy, and we'll change the height of this. And the same again here. I'm just going to go back to the front view and make sure that this lines up okay, so that's fine. This one we can actually line up with the reference image. And that's looking quite good. So let's go back to the top view, and with this base, this should actually come around the armrest. So we can do that by adding an edit poly, and I'm just going to grab this poly here, and if I'm back in the top view and you want to grab that, I would just grab all of those, hold Alt to deselect, and then I've got that poly selected, and I'm just going to pull that in to where we want it, and we can grab all of these edges and connect them, and they've connected in just the right spot, so that's fine. And again, it's going to remember the last poly selection, so I'm just going to hold Alt and get rid of that poly, and now we can hit extrude here. You can do an interactive extrude by clicking the button and click and drag in, or you can do a dialog extrude and put in a measurement. I normally use this and then move it manually, but you can see now we've built around that armrest, and we'll do the same this side. We actually want our base to come out all the way to here, so let's select this base, add an edit poly, and I'm just going to use the verts this time and pull this in. And let's pull this side in as well. And then we can select this face. We can extrude it out. And again, extrude that face out. And this base in the middle also we want lined up so it doesn't cut through the armrest. So we'll add an edit poly, select these verts and pull them in. And we've got a really rough shape for our sofa. We haven't got any pillows on yet, but we are making some good progress.